Today, we are uncovering the story of the largest snake that has ever lived. I mean, this is a creature so unbelievably huge, it really makes you rethink what's possible for life on this planet.
So let's just dive right in with the question. What was the absolute top predator in the ancient Amazon? Well, to answer that, we have to travel back about 60 million years. Not to a jungle, but to a massive coal mine in Colombia called Cerrejón.
Deep inside this mine, in a place that used to be a vast, steamy rainforest, scientists dug up something odd. It was big, it had a weird shape, and right away, everybody started arguing about what it could be.
Honestly, no one was really sure what they were looking at. Was it a piece of a crocodile? Maybe a fragment of a giant turtle's shell? Some people even thought it was just a piece of an old petrified tree. But what they were holding? Well, it was the very first clue to a world ruled by an absolute giant.
You know, figuring this all out was a real slow burn. It all started way back in 1994, when a geologist stumbled upon the first piece and just kind of wrote it off as a funny-looking tree branch. It actually took until 2007, more than a decade later, for these strange bones to finally get into the hands of the right experts at the Florida Museum of Natural History.
And this is where the story gets really interesting. At the museum, the lead researcher took just one look at this fossil and knew this wasn't a tree branch. It wasn't a crocodile either. It was something way, way bigger. So they did something brilliant. They put the fossil right next to a vertebra from a modern green anaconda, which is one of the biggest snakes alive today. And the difference was just, wow, absolutely staggering. The fossil was without a doubt from a snake, but it was 3 times bigger and so much thicker. It had to have belonged to a creature of a size that nobody had ever seen before. So, based on that single bone, scientists started doing the math to figure out how long this snake would have been. The number they came up with was almost hard to believe: 50 feet.
Just take a second and try to picture that. A real, living animal that's longer than a city bus. It could stretch from the driver's seat all the way to the back bumper and still have room to spare. And if the length doesn't get you, the weight will. We're talking about a staggering 1,200 kilograms. That's 1.2 metric tons.
This creature was heavier than a car. It weighed 10 times more than the biggest anacondas slithering around today. So they gave it the perfect name, Titanoboa. It was, in every single way, the undisputed king of snakes.
A discovery this huge, of course, raises an even bigger question. How in the world could a snake possibly grow to be so monstrous? And the answer isn't just in its DNA. It's in the world it lived in. A climate that basically acted like a giant engine for evolution.
Okay, so snakes are ectothermic. That's just the scientific way of saying they're cold-blooded. See, they can't make their own body heat. So the world around them, the environment, it's basically the thermostat for their entire body. And here's the key, the simple rule for these kinds of animals. The hotter the world is, the faster their metabolism runs. And a faster metabolism, that means more energy, faster growth, and eventually the ability to support a much, much bigger body.
So Titanoboa's incredible size ended up being a kind of paleothermometer. Its very existence proved that 60 million years ago, its rainforest home had a sweltering average temperature of at least 32 degrees Celsius. It was a hot, humid, hothouse world that basically never cooled off.
All right, so a 1.2-ton creature needs a ton of food to keep going. But here's the problem. With all that weight and length, it would have been super slow and clumsy on land. It would have been fighting gravity with every single move.
So it hunted like a modern crocodile. It was an aquatic ambush predator. It would submerge its massive body in the murky swamp water, which was perfect for supporting its weight. Then, using the water as camouflage, it would just lie there, perfectly still, and wait. And when an animal came down to the water's edge to get a drink, bam! It would launch a lightning-fast strike from below and then crush its victim with those powerful coils.
And that crushing power, it's just mind-blowing. Biomechanical models estimate that when Titanoboa wrapped around its prey, it squeezed with a force of over 400 pounds per square inch.
To put that into perspective for you, that's like having 2 full-grown African elephants standing on your chest. The pressure was so intense, it would have shattered bones and stopped blood flow almost instantly.
A predator this big needed prey to match. Its diet was made up of the other giants that lived in its swampy world. We're talking about massive turtles up to 8 feet long. That's about the size of a pool table. and ancient crocodiles that were bigger than any we have today.
So, if Titanoboa was the undisputed king, the top predator with no enemies, where did it go? Why don't we see these giants in the Amazon today? Well, the answer is actually tragically simple.
The world that created Titanoboa changed. Over millions of years, the planet started to cool down, and for a cold-blooded giant that needed extreme heat just to exist, this was basically a death sentence. Its supercharged metabolism slowed way down, making it too sluggish to hunt effectively or even digest its food properly.
And it wasn't just the cooling climate. Its swampy home started to dry up, and new, more agile mammals began to rise, creating competition for food. The perfect storm of environmental factors that allowed this giant to thrive, it just disappeared.
The fall of the Titanoboa is just this incredible prehistoric reminder of how finely balanced our planet's ecosystems really are. The very same thing that gave rise to the biggest snake in history, the climate, was also the thing that wiped it from existence. And that leaves us with a pretty important question to think about today.